as we look at lesson 11.1, statistical questions and variables. We really are spending today and tomorrow talking vocabulary more than anything. Okay. Before we get into talking vocabulary and whatnot a little bit, I'm going to try and get your guys' minds into talking about the statistical type stuff. And we're going to look at this first question, or this first graph. A state questioned some of its high schools about the price they were charging for prom tickets. The results are summarized in this histogram. So you see there prom ticket prices. Along the bottom, you see individual ticket cost in dollars, and along the left, number of students. Now, we've got some questions we're going to discuss here, which I will say, this lesson goes much better if you talk to me and discuss. Otherwise, this lesson's going to be a difficult lesson to get through, just saying, okay? What questions can be answered using the data in this histogram? So think about what they described here and what you see here, and what kinds of questions could we answer? Okay, so obviously multiple different possibilities here. What do we have? What do you have, Zach?
Just all the averages of prom tickets. Like the average cost of prom tickets.
Like average cost of prom tickets?
Median.
Okay. What'd you say?
The median.
The median. Which median it would be the middle price, right? Most popular, which I know I used that this morning, then I realized after I said it, I was like, oh, wait, most popular, that is the, well.
Most.
No.
Mean, median, mode.
Mode? What's the M word we haven't talked about, right? Okay, so mean being the average, median being the middle number, and mode being the most. See, we're going to get to this review eventually. Range?
They range from 25 to 70.
Okay, we could look at the range, definitely, yes.
So,
you know, lowest to highest values. There's one other thing I'd like to hit on.
Is this like English? Is this like English class?
I don't know what you want to call it. Still math, just focus. Okay. We also know, what about the number of schools? Could we figure out the number of schools that answered this survey?
Yeah.
Yeah, because in each, for instance, in the first column, we know there are what? Looks like 4 schools in the 25 to 30 range.
Yeah.
Another 4 schools in the 30 to 35 range, maybe 6 schools, you know. So we could figure out the number of schools surveyed. Okay, so those are all good questions that we can answer using this data. Okay, so I'm going to say average price of tickets. Which that would be mean, right? We could talk about the most popular price, which the most popular price would be the mode. We can talk about the range of ticket prices. What else did I leave out? I said number of schools surveyed. Okay, I think I incorporated most of what we talked about there. But those are all mathematical questions at that, right? That can be answered looking at this histogram. Who might be interested in the answers to these questions?
Students.
Okay.
Parents.
Okay. Students, parents.
The state.
The state, as in the state created this survey, right? The state questioned some of its high schools. So are they going to be interested in the information? Okay. Students, parents, what else related along the people idea?
Teachers.
Teachers and or administrators, right? Because think about it. Teachers, administrators, those are probably who's setting the prices, right? Okay. Let's see. Administrators, parents, students, the state that did the survey. Oh, and then just in general, the other thing I had here, the schools that are trying to set their prom prices, prom ticket prices, right? Okay. So all people that might be interested in answers to some of these questions. So I'm going to say the state that did the survey. Parents, students, administrators, and I'm going to say schools trying to set prom ticket prices. Okay. Last question. Anastasia is surprised that the median cost of a prom ticket is not higher, given that her school is charging $60 per ticket. What are some possible reasons for the data not conforming to her expectations?
She's thinking about the mean cost.
What? What makes you say that?
The median cost would be around 50, 55, or 45. Yeah.
Are you wanting like mathematical reasons or like
No, not necessarily mathematical.
reasons like maybe they didn't do as much fundraising?
That's how it's put, so
Because her school's is 60 and the median is probably around like 50.
Yeah.
Or like they had a more expensive venue, so then it cost more for the
Yeah.
tickets?
Those are more the ideas I'm looking
Yeah,
at here.
they may have like more expensive.
Okay. Because either way, whether we talk about the median or the mean, $60 is definitely above the median and the mean price. Okay. Well, we don't know I haven't figured the exact median or mean here. But either way, 60 is definitely a step above that. Okay. So with that in mind, basically, what are reasons that her school, because if you look at 60 is, that's in the top bit here, isn't it? There's not a whole lot of schools that are going to charge 60 and above. So what are some reasons that her schools might be charging 60 when other schools aren't? Okay. Okay. So the venue, where is their prom? Are they at some ritzy hotel in downtown Indianapolis? As opposed to another school that might be in their high school cafeteria?
Where are we at? Where you guys at?
My prom was in my high school cafeteria.
Was it good?
Is it
Doesn't seem
big
very good,
cafeteria, like,
It was
How
the
much
norm.
was it? How much was it?
I have no idea. You're
How much
also
is this
talking.
year's prom?
I don't know.
How much is it?
So, but venue, fundraising. How much money is in the account that's paying for prom? Does that make a difference? Yeah. How much money is already in that account? How much more how much more do they need to cover in the way of cost? I will say COVID is providing for this prom this year to an extent, if you ask me. Huh?
Because of the field trip that they did.
Yeah. these kids, Chicago Pie fundraiser for their Chicago trip is paying for this prom to an extent.
Still upset about it.
So, it's things like that, so fundraising, venues, meal cost. Some proms have a meal at their prom. Does ours have a meal?
Should.
It should, but it doesn't. I think they do snacks, right? So sometimes there's snacks, sometimes meal costs. Okay. Did the school provide any money? Is there a provided budget? Some schools might provide some budget for their prom. All reasons to get you guys, it just really comes down to the difference in expenses. So, what are some possible reasons for the data not conforming to our expectations? I have written down that other schools may have done more fundraising or provided a larger budget, cheaper venues, meal cost, difference in expenses. That was kind of the summary of what I wrote there. So, put some information down. I'm going to say other schools may have done more fundraising or provided a larger budget. And then we can also say, what did I say? Cheaper venues, meal cost. Difference in expenses. Okay. So, by looking at this problem, guys, I'm trying to get your brains going here. I'm trying to get you guys thinking about, just statistical questions, things to, think about statistically. Okay? And realizing there's not just one right answer necessarily, depending on the situation. Okay. Are you ready for the next part? Okay. Consider the following questions. In what month is your birthday?
September.
What month has the most birthdays of students at your school? Okay. What's the difference between these two questions? What do we have different here, Raja?
One is asking for yours, the other one's asking for everybody's
One's asking for an individual, one's asking for a collective.
Okay.
Yes.
So, on the first question, how many answers are there to the first question? If it's just talking to you, there is one answer, right? I know someone's going to argue, well, technically there's 12 possible answers, but just for you, how many answers are there? There is one answer for you, right? Because this one is, what month is your birthday? So, question 1 just has one answer. Whereas question 2, it requires multiple answers to get there, doesn't it? I need an answer from you, everybody to then summarize and get there. So,
Yes.
question 1 has one answer.
This is not a one. I'm sorry.
The Roman numeral.
Roman numeral 1.
Oh,
Okay. Question 1, or I guess in my notes I have, is answered with one answer. Question 2 requires multiple answers. Now, what we're starting to look at is the difference between statistical questions. Question 1 can be answered using one piece of information. That's all you need, and you're done. Whereas question 2, okay, it's an example of what we call a statistical question because it can be answered by collecting many pieces of information or data and summarizing the data. In other words, what month has the most birthdays of students at your school? You need lots of people to answer, and then you need to gather all that data together, okay? The answer to statistical questions can be summarized in different types of displays, such as bar graphs, line graphs, scatter plots, frequency charts. We're going to look at some of those as we go through this chapter. But statistical question takes multiple answers to get there, right? As opposed to just one straight answer that pretty much kind of a right or wrong type answer. Okay, so let's look at the back.
Dang, we're moving.
We're going to look at the graph here. Okay? There are two different graphs. Does each graph represent the answer to a statistical question? In other words, if it's a statistical question, it represents many pieces of information or data being summarized, as opposed to just one straight answer. So the first graph, you'll notice it's distance traveled to school. You have student age along the bottom in years, distance in miles along the left. Does this graph represent a statistical question?
Yeah.
Why?
Because the answers are varied, and it's also a scatter plot. So
Okay. The answers are varied, as in
the points are.
we're looking at multiple different answers here, aren't we? Okay, we're not looking at just how far did you travel to school, but this is a variety of answers, right? This is a variety of answers that can be collected and summarized. So, yes, it's a statistical question. And then my explanation I've written in my notes is answered by gathering multiple responses about distance traveled to school. Sure. I'm going to say answered by gathering multiple responses. I don't know why, but I cannot spell this word responses today. I got called out on it in my morning class, and I just made the same spelling mistake now.
No C?
No.
It looks like you have to see it. I swear.
Okay. Second graph.
No.
Travel time at 20 miles per hour average speed. You got distance in miles along the bottom, time in minutes along the side. Is this a statistical question?
Yeah.
Why not?
Because
It's like a fact, I guess.
it doesn't have any errors in it.
Okay. Completely linear kind of leads me into it doesn't seem like it's very statistical, like gathering multiple responses. I like Raj's comment because it's a fact, kind of. Because what is this? This is 20 miles per hour, right? Well, 20 miles per hour. If you go 20 miles, that's going to take 1 hour, right? How far are you going to go in 2 hours? 40 miles, right? Like, it's just a set fact, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it's 20 miles per hour, there's not going to be, something varying there. So, not statistical. Question is based on 20 miles per hour, so answers are set based on distance traveled. Question is based on 20 miles per hour. So answers are set based on distance. Okay? Now, we've got some questions to decide if they are statistical questions. So, is the given question a statistical question? Which is the most popular visual art form? Photography, painting, sculpting, or drawing?
No,
What?
that's the statistical question.
Okay. Why is it a statistical question?
It means you have to gather a bunch of different answers
It doesn't
and
specify
throw
what
them.
year.
Okay. We're going to have to gather multiple answers, right?
What was the most popular visual art form in specific years?
Yeah. I think the fact that it says most popular visual art form, most popular, to me that's kind of a clue that, hey,
You gather multiple
you have to
answers.
gather, you have to kind of do a survey. You have to do a survey. That's going to be a statistical question there.
Yeah.
Okay? You're going to get multiple different answers. So, statistical because many pieces of information can be collected and summarized. Okay. So I wrote statistical because multiple pieces of information must be gathered and summarized. I almost feel like just putting survey because I feel like, it's a survey. That's going to be a statistic. But then again, you could have a survey that's not statistical. So, okay. Number 2. How many lithographs were created by the artist M.C. Escher?
No,
Not statistical because?
it's a fact. It's a number.
You can get the straight answer.
Okay, there's one answer, right? And it doesn't matter how many different people I ask, there's only one correct answer, right? I guess I could get a variety of answers, but
Only one was correct.
only one is correct, okay? So this one is not a statistical question. And my explanation, one set answer. Okay. Number 3. During which month did your family take a vacation?
Not statistical.
The way it's asked is not statistical, is it? And here's my thought. Because it says, during which month did your family take a vacation? There is one correct answer for you, correct? Now, if I change this up and said, what's the most popular month that families take vacations? That changes it, right? Because now I'm needing to gather multiple answers from multiple people. This is just specifically talking to you. So, not statistical. It can be answered with one piece of information. Okay. Okay. Can Getting the feel for what's a statistical question versus not a statistical question, yes? Okay. Well, let's go to the section at the bottom of this next page. Okay. Or at the bottom of this page, excuse me. Bottom of my next screen, that's where I was going with that. Sometimes forget, my screens and pages don't line up because I try and make this readable and zoom in. Okay. So we talked about statistical questions. Now we're going to talk about statistical variables. So a statistical variable is a quantity or quality that can be measured or counted for which data are expected to differ from one observation to another. So statistical variable is the variable, the thing changing, okay, the thing in question, so to speak. The idea is it can be a quantity or it can be a quality. So we have two types of statistical variables here. We have a categorical variable, which is a variable that has a limited number of possible responses that are not quantitative. Data that falls into a category. Okay, so in other words, not a number response. Example, what is your favorite Olympic sport? There's not numbers to answer that. That's a category, a word. The other option here is a quantitative variable. Realize quantitative comes from the word quantity, which refers to a number. A quantitative variable has numerical values that can be meaningfully compared, added, subtracted, or otherwise operated on. So if it's quantitative, you're going to get a number answer that you can then use as data and manipulate, okay, or work with. Example, what is the typical number of apps a teenager has on a smartphone? So that can be me getting an answer from each of you and then mathematically working with them, okay? Notice on that one, it's quantitative. It has numerical values, okay? So in these examples, we're going to be asked to do two things. First of all, identify the statistical variable. So what is it that we are talking about, okay? What is our topic here? So what is the statistical variable represented by the following questions? And then is it categorical, so he talks about a category, or quantitative, where we talk about a number? So first example, what breed of dog is most likely to be adopted from an animal shelter?
Category.
Okay. I agree with categorical because we're talking about a category here, right? What is the variable, though?
The breed of dog.
The breed of dog, yes? So realize when they ask what is a statistical variable, then the variable that we're talking about is the breed of dog. Now, because breed of dogs, we can't talk about numbers here. We're talking about categories. So this is a categorical variable. Okay? Does that make sense where we're going with this?
Yeah.
What is the average number of students per activity participating in after-school activities at Jefferson High School?
Quantitative.
Are we going to be talking numbers here?
Is number of students.
Yeah. What is our variable?
Number of students.
Average number of students?
Yeah.
Okay, I have it mine listed as average number of students, but something about the number of students, right? So, average number of students is what we're talking about. And right there, it's a number, folks. So because it's a number, that makes it a quantitative variable. Sorry, words that are harder for me to spell, I can't talk and spell at the same time. Certain words I have to focus. Quantitative is one of those words. Okay. And one last one in this section. How many TV sets are owned by families? It's how many, right? So we're talking about a number. What's the variable?
Number of TV sets.
Okay, it's how many TV sets. So, number of TV sets. That is the variable in question. Quantitative. Okay. Now, you realize we're not done with these notes for this lesson, right? There was a lot of words. I couldn't get it all in the front and back, right? So 11.1 goes on and has another front and another back. So I think what I'm going to say, tomorrow we will talk about populations and samples and parameters and statistics. Okay? And then I wouldn't think that'd have to take the whole time, especially if you guys are participating with me. Okay? So we will meet up and talk again tomorrow.